Hello again. Well, it's been a tough year for South Africans. We've seen the rising interest rates, food and fuel prices, and of course, job losses. One survey by Talent LMS shows people are cutting back to keep up with the rising cost of living. It's showing that South Africans have pulled back on spending on three main categories: going out, shopping and entertainment. Let's break this down more now with Professor Jannie Rossouw from Wits Business School. Prof, thank you very much for talking to us today here on eNCA. Welcome today. Yeah, it's really been a tough 2022 year in terms of the cost of living. Many South Africans are really going through a rough time.
Well, good afternoon and good afternoon to the viewers. It is indeed a tough time for South African consumers, but of course also for South African businesses with continued load shedding. And 2023 will similarly be a tough year ahead, amongst others because load shedding will continue in the new year. So obviously ahead, they might be forced to cut back even further on their spending.
Yeah, and I mean, those three categories are the main ones that I've just mentioned there in introduction. People really cutting back on going out and shopping, just shopping, and all sorts of entertainment. But those are the things that people will be needing now as we end the year in order to rest and re-energize themselves.
Yeah, going into this festive season, people often spend more, and they must be careful, therefore, in planning their spending, because the hardship of the spending will come in January and February when the bills have to be paid. So planning carefully for spending during the festive season will help consumers to make ends meet early in 2023.
Yeah, and you said it's still going to be a tough year going into 2023. I saw that food inflation as well is expected to remain stubbornly high.
Yeah, food inflation is stubbornly high. Fuel is expensive, although some little drop in the fuel price might be expected early next year. And of course, interest rates are on the rise to contain inflationary expectations. And all these elements will impact on consumption expenditure. So my advice to consumers is to avoid debt, to be very careful in planning their spending so that they do not run into debt that must be repaid in the new year. This is not the time to accumulate more debt, especially with the expectation of higher interest rates. I should, however, hasten to add that those people who save and who have money on deposit, typically older people, will reap the benefits of higher interest rates as we move into 2023.
Yeah, and the outlook from a financial and economic conditions perspective in the foreseeable future is not looking great generally, Prof? Professor Rossouw, are you there? Yeah, the signal coming from him.
Load shedding impacting very. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we didn't hear you. Can you repeat your answer, please?
Yeah, going forward with load shedding, of course, it will be very difficult for businesses to survive. And as a result of load shedding, we might see even more price increases as businesses try to survive through a difficult period where their operations are disrupted. So we are heading into a very difficult year with fiscal position of the government under strain. South Africans should expect more hard times.
Yeah, and the best advice would be avoid any new debt, as you've said. Anything else on your mind, Prof?
Yeah, indeed. Try to substitute in expenditure, for instance, by buying cheaper items. And then lastly, plan travel very carefully to try and contain expenditure on fuel, which is currently very expensive. And then, of course, my best wishes to consumers. We are all in this together.
Thank you very much, Professor, for some of those common sense advice, good advice, and some insights as we look at the cost of living. That's Professor Jannie Rossouw from Wits Business School, who was talking to us there virtually from Claremont in the Western Cape this afternoon.